Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show, Spencer.
Good to be here.
Spencer, perhaps Canadians travel by air almost more than anybody else in the world because we have such a massive country, and our two major airlines have a lot of 737 Maxes in their fleet. Should we feel safe flying on that particular airplane?
I'd be fairly concerned. I mean, again, crashes are rare even on those planes, but earlier today I said the government should be banning those flights until we really figure out what's going on. I mean, it's a situation where there have been reports of pilots saying that the autopilot or some of the software and the systems on the plane is a big problem. The two crashes look so far pretty similar in terms of a plane about 15 minutes after takeoff quickly nosedived. And the reports that one of the problems is that the information that gets fed back to the pilots from the plane can be false, and so it tells them that they're close to a stall, so they have to lower the nose, and then it turns out they're actually flying level, puts them towards the ground. So again, I think it's a situation, especially with air travel. You don't get a second chance really in a plane crash. So if you're not sure the plane is safe, then I don't think it should be flying.
And of course, in Canada and U.S., they say they're studying what could be a problem, whereas in the UK, Germany, China, Australia,
India, the whole European Union, almost half the world population at least,
has said it's better to ground them until we find out if there's a systemic problem.
Yeah, it's kind of strange both the way Canada and the U.S. are looking at it. It's, we're not sure if there's a problem yet, so we're going to keep flying. That's not normally how you deal with a kind of a life and death situation, though. You say, if there is no problem, then they don't know yet. So you're going to put more people at risk, and then, you're going to find out, 2 months later or a month later, there's a big problem. We were flying the whole time. No, you've got to take the planes out of circulation and find out what's going on.
Boeing says it's a matter of pilot training, but apparently you have to do things that are not instinctually taught to pilots.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're developing supposedly a new, more advanced plane. So why should it require more training and training that pilots are used to fly? I mean, that just seems like a pretty big problem. And again, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, who knows, don't want to get sued. But, you hear a lot of these situations with big corporations, and it turns out that, they knew about this thing all along, and they were just trying to save some money. So I hope that's not the case here, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, I just think back to the DC-10 that had a flaw that allowed the cargo doors to fly out. The floor would come down, crush the control cables, and crash the airplane. And they knew about it when the airplane was being built, but they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all in this kind of situation.
Now, normally Boeing makes reliable aircraft, and before their default was always if there's a disagreement between a computer and a pilot, the pilot won out. Apparently in this new one, the computer wins out.
Yeah, I think they seem fairly defensive. I think they've got to realize that the brand damage to the plane has already happened. I mean, there have been two crashes. And again, the crashes are very rare. So to have two crashes on the same kind of plane within about 5 months of each other, and it's a new plane, so that's also a big problem. We're not talking about super old 737s that are about to be replaced that are crashing. These are brand new planes. So, I think if they want to save their reputation, they've got to get to the bottom of it, because people are not going to be wanting to fly in their planes.
Plus, the radar profile of both crashes was the same, with the plane porpoising, going up and down, seemingly out of control.
Yeah, I'm obviously not an expert on that, but that would seem to anecdotally fit with the whole idea that the pilots are being fed incorrect information about their altitude or the direction of their plane. So again, you can blame pilots if I'm sure that's what Boeing would like to do, but if you have two totally different airlines with a very similar looking crash, it might be the plane.
And the pilots in both crashes very experienced as well. And somebody said that would actually be a detriment in this new airplane. How could that be so?
Yeah, if you're designing a plane where experienced pilots are not as good at flying it, then maybe the problem's with the design of the plane. It's over complexity. They're trying to be, look at how advanced and technological our plane is. That's fine, but instinctual, in a crisis, what you have to do is build something that their quick instinct makes them do the right thing. So if pilots have built up instincts over a long time, then you should design your plane around that, not a system where, if something goes wrong, they have to really think about it in a life and death situation. If they make the wrong move, everyone dies. So, yeah, I think they really need to look into this, because I wouldn't want to fly one of those planes right now. It's not a risk worth taking to me.
Exactly. And they said, the solution is to turn off these two switches on the control panel. Unfortunately, when you're panicking, you're not thinking about two switches that never existed in any other airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this almost reminds me, and obviously not a life and death situation in terms of the Apple phones, but when the iPhone 4 or 5, and there was a problem with the antenna, and they said, you just gotta hold it correctly, and people are like, well, you kinda gotta design it correctly too, and then they released some sort of update for it, and it was fine. But, again, if your plane is designed that there's a problem and you have to turn something off because it's gonna feed you the wrong information, then that needs to be fixed. It's not enough to just say, just turn it off. Well, you should have designed the plane correctly in the first place.
Should Canada ground them?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Again, until they figure out what the problem is. Maybe it has nothing to do with the plane. I doubt it. I think it does. But maybe it doesn't, and then so you ground them, and then you start them up again where everything's okay. Or there's a problem with the plane, and you ground them, and then once a fix is rolled out, then you, I guess, let them fly again. Or if they can't fix it, then you get new planes. But yeah, to have a situation where you're not sure if there's a systemic problem with the plane, and while we're figuring it out, we're going to keep flying them. They recall cars, and they don't let you, if there's a problem found in a car, with a tire or an airbag or some sort of part, they don't let you, they tell you, okay, go get that recalled and get it taken in and fixed as soon as possible. So, to think you wouldn't do the same with planes, I don't know about that.
Plus, they have a new 777 model out. Is it using the same software?
Yeah. Well, I don't know much about the software they use, but I'd imagine their systems are pretty similar. I don't think there have been reports of, software causing crashes on the 777, so not really sure about that. But again, that's the problem, is that if they don't address this quickly and don't make people feel safe, then people are going to start asking questions about all their planes. So again, I know it's the usual kind of corporate thing to try to spin and, kind of run away from questions, but I don't think that's going to work in this case.
Do we know why the CBC apologized for broadcasting fake news on the Covington Boys story?
My guess would be that they're worried about getting sued. I don't know for sure, but I know in the States, there are big lawsuits threatened against a lot of those newspapers and media organizations that really branded that kid in a terrible way. So probably CBC getting out ahead of it and saying, maybe we'll apologize and not get sued. We'll see. I'm not sure how focused his lawyers will be on Canada, but yeah, probably some sort of legal issue.
Are people turning away from Canada's so-called fake news media?
In some cases, but I think the media is really changing. Everyone has a different definition of what fake news is. It's often by parties. So right now you see a lot of liberals. It's been a very interesting twist. A lot of liberals are calling the media fake news and saying all the media reports are fake and this story never happened. Now that the media is talking about the Trudeau PMO SNC Lavalin scandal, so that's been quite interesting. The Liberals originally said, anyone who questions the media, that's a real disservice to democracy. And there they are saying, the media is incorrect and blowing things out of proportion, they say. So that's been interesting to watch. But, I think the media is changing too. I mean, I'd spoken at one point to a reporter and noticed how even traditional news organizations are kind of shifting towards a more partisan stance, either left or right, but mostly to the left. But so I think that's starting to change, and I think new media has led the way in terms of taking a strong stance on issues and being more honest, and I think traditional media in an effort to survive is sometimes emulating that more.
Are Canadians being propagandized on the SNC Lavalin file?
Well, I think by Michael Warnock for sure, with all his stuff about with the vomitorium, and he's talking about assassinations and all this crazy stuff. It's interesting to watch. I think the way the Trudeau PMO and all the kind of elites are flailing around. They were used to a system where they could kind of do whatever they want. Oh, it's just accepted that, if this company breaks the law, we'll change the law for them, no worries. And they're kind of stunned that people are actually finding out about it and looking into it and not wanting to put up with it. So yeah, I think they're trying to, spread a lot of propaganda around it, but most of the polls show it's not working. I mean, there's another poll that showed, I think, 49% believe Jody Wilson-Raybould. Only 13% believe Trudeau. I mean, those are pretty bad numbers for a prime minister. So, yeah, I don't think the propaganda from the government's working that well.
We're hearing stories of SNC Lavalin bribing governments in a number of countries. Should all the politicians and government officials involved in that be held accountable for requesting and or taking bribes?
For sure. Although, I mean, in a lot of countries, that's just probably not going to get prosecuted. I mean, you're looking at a dictatorship, right? You're not going to be seeing prosecutions for corruption there. But certainly any officials, Canadian officials from that company or any Canadian politicians who knew about it, I'd say need to be held accountable if that's found out. But again, there has to be a disincentive to that. I mean, if SNC Lavalin gets a nice sweetheart deal and no executives lose their jobs from it, then okay, what are people going to think? Oh, if you're a big enough company, you get to break the law around the world and not get held accountable. Interesting standard.
Jody Wilson-Raybould wanted to testify under oath to the Justice Committee. Why wouldn't Gerald Butts, the resigned Prime Minister's head guy, agree to testify under oath?
Well, I mean, we can only speculate, right? But my speculation would be that he's obviously worried about legal exposure. I mean, they've already got lawyers. I'm sure a lot of the people in the PMO have, signed up lawyers to help them out. But what's interesting about this whole thing is that if you look at the way the stories change, it's that first they said the story was totally false, and then they said there was inappropriate, or there was discussions but no pressure. Then they said there was no inappropriate pressure, and now it seems like they're almost shifting towards saying, oh, she should have done it to save the jobs, as they put it. They say to those jobs. So he can't really go and testify and say that she's wrong, because then if he was under oath, then he'd be lying, right? And he could face legal consequences for that. The committee says there are technically legal consequences if you lie to the House of Commons committee, but that's a political committee, so you're not going to see the Liberals be charging anybody for lying to them when it's on their side.
Could the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights be corrupt itself?
Well, I think, in many ways the political system's corrupt itself, so that flows down to the committee as well. I mean, it's a committee where the party with the majority has a majority of seats on the committee and has the majority of control, so they really get whatever the PMO wants. I mean, the PMO would tell the committee chair what to do, the committee chair would tell the Liberal members what to do. And you can see that by the fact that why did Michael Warnock get 2 chances to testify, and Jody Wilson-Raybould only has 1, and he was allowed to speak about anything, and she's limited in what she can say. So I think that itself shows the process is corrupt.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp. is a Canadian-based mineral exploration project generator. The company currently holds multiple property interests in Ontario with joint venture partners and is seeking further joint venture partners for other drill-ready properties in our portfolio. For more information, please visit our website at rmroyalty.com or call me at 604-922-2030.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Albemarle's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the Pink's CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, if any crimes were committed by the Trudeau government, who would make the decision to prosecute?
Well, I mean, the RCMP would be involved in that. We've seen during, I think it was the 2005 election, halfway through the campaign, the RCMP announced they were launching an investigation, so that would be a part of it. I mean, again, as this is the whole debate here, is there was supposed to be prosecutorial independence, so there should be, in theory, the system should be totally free from political interference, but it seems like that's not necessarily the case. I think more likely is that you'd see political consequences, because it seems what happens is people who control the government are generally able to stop their own people from being prosecuted, and then the next government comes in and doesn't want to be seen as punishing their political opponents by saying, oh, we won the election, we're going to put a bunch of people in jail. I mean, you've seen some cases, I think was it Del Mastro from the Conservatives, he was charged, and I think he spent time in jail. I know he got in trouble, definitely. Don't want to say that definitively whether he went to jail or not, but I know he got in trouble. So it is certainly possible for people in a political party in power to get in trouble even when their party's in power, but I think most likely you'd have to see political consequences here as opposed to people going to jail. Doesn't mean it's right. I mean, there should be consequences for people, but the system seems built purposely to make sure that politicians mostly don't face serious consequences.
Well, it's the politicians who make the laws.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to be done to put corrupt politicians? Yeah, what needs to be done to put corrupt politicians and government officials in jail?
Well, I think you need. I mean, that's the problem, as you said, is that the politicians get to write the laws, right? So I think you need tougher penalties. So you need a political party to run on the idea of tougher penalties even for politicians, which many of them talk a good game once they get in power. They seem less likely to want to punish government corruption for some reason. So I think the first step would have to be public pressure. The public would have to demand accountability and demand that people face a serious punishment. And that's really the only way you're going to see less corruption, because as long as politicians feel they can get away with it, I think a lot of them are going to keep trying.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and Canada. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol ASDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, this legislation deferred prosecution agreement seems it was crafted especially for SNC Lavalin, because Canada existed without that particular law until SNC was brought up on bribery allegations.
Yeah, I mean, totally, and you can tell just by the timeline. There was a report on how it was put into the budget, and SNC Lavalin was already lobbying about it before Liberal MPs knew it had been put in the budget, so they hadn't even looked at it, didn't even know it was in there. And SNC Lavalin, which clearly knew ahead of time, was already there lobbying to get it. So that kind of tells you where the conversations have been happening. And, I mean, it's obviously for that company specifically. I mean, this is a specific issue facing that company that doesn't apply to any other companies I'm aware of in Canada at the time. So it's pretty obvious what it was for.
Have the Conservatives said if they're elected they would get rid of that law?
No, they haven't said they'd get rid of it. They haven't even said whether they would not give it to SNC Lavalin. It looks like they're kind of moving in that direction. They're probably worried about losing some support in Quebec, but I mean, polls even show Quebec pretty split on it. So I think it's getting to the point where the Conservatives are going to have to come out and say clearly that they wouldn't, just because there's been definitely a kind of a Western alienation aspect to all of this. I mean, people are looking and saying, okay, so Trudeau and company are willing to rewrite the laws, bring in a new law. It seems corrupt justice to save what they say, 9,000 jobs at that company. But over 100,000 jobs lost in Alberta and the energy industry. And where are the new laws for that? Nothing really being done. In fact, not only is nothing being done, but regulations and taxes are being put in that make more job losses likely. So I think that double standard, and the Conservatives have a strong base of support in the West. I think very tough for any Conservative MP to justify giving that company a break.
Andrew Scheer, as well, is involved in some kind of a Pizzagate scandal. What's the deal there?
Yeah, I think someone asked him about that conspiracy theory. He says he didn't hear the question. The full question. He answered part of it. He didn't answer anything about the Pizzagate thing, and got some criticism for it. It mostly seems like the Liberals were trying to create a new controversy to distract from the SNC Lavalin issue. It didn't really work and didn't really last at all, though. The attention quickly went back to SNC Lavalin, and Scheer released a statement saying it's a dumb, dangerous conspiracy theory. So I don't think that's going to cause too much damage to him.
The OECD, the Economic Cooperation Development Organization, says it's now worried that SNC Lavalin shows that Canada may be a corrupt nation to do business with.
Mm-hmm.
What's this doing to our international reputation?
Yeah, they say their bribery watchdog is now looking into the issue. So that's Canada's back, getting attention on the world stage, just not so good. Again, I mean, from look at how they're looking at it. I mean, SNC Lavalin was a company that the World Bank, which I'm sure the World Bank has dealt with some shady characters in the past. The World Bank even said a whole decade, no contracts with this company because of all the corruption problems. So I think the different organizations are looking at that and saying, well, if it was in China or something, we'd be very critical, saying, well, this looks like a government interfering to protect a big company connected politically. So people look in Canada and say that, and it doesn't look good here either.
Is there anything else on the world front we should be looking at? I guess Brexit, Theresa May not doing too well in her House of Parliament.
No, she lost another vote again. I mean, by a slightly smaller margin, but it was still a blowout. 391 voted against her deal, 242 voted for it. Lost over 70 people, I think, from her own party. So it's a disaster there. I've said for many months they just need to do a no-deal Brexit. Maybe it'll be tough at the beginning, but I think things would turn out okay. So they just need to get it over with. I mean, there's lots of different issues they're facing: budget issues, poverty issues, military issues, and their whole political system's been consumed with Brexit really since it happened. So I think they just need to. It was about taking back control, so I don't know why they keep going back to the EU asking for more help. I mean, you're trying to leave the EU, which I think is good. I think they should be leaving. The country should be independent. But they shouldn't be going back to the EU over and over again saying, oh, give us some concessions. I mean, the EU, it's in the EU's interest to make it tough because the EU doesn't want more people leaving. So the UK, I think, just needs to do a no deal, get out, and I think they'll be fine. But it seems, I mean, I'm kind of concerned that the establishment there is still trying to undo what the will of the people was there. The establishment's never really accepted that people wanted to leave. And it looks like they're trying to delay it and kind of muck it up as much as they can. So we'll see what happens. I hope they go through with it, but it looks like the establishment's kind of throwing the whole kitchen sink at it to try to stop it.
Well, what's the whole problem with Britain being part of the European Union was that it was supposed to be an economic deal, but it turned out an unelected parliament in Brussels was making political decisions on their behalf.
Yeah, I mean, the EU's got a big problem, which is that in some ways it's way too centralized, in some ways it's not. So they have total centralization of all the regulations, and then the currency, which obviously the UK is not a part of. I mean, that itself is kind of an odd man out there. But then they don't have any revenue sharing. So a good example would be like in the United States. There's one currency, and there's a lot of centralized decision making. but there's also decentralization to the states, and states that make more money share certain revenues with other states. You see the same in Canada to an extent, although our system is very broken because states, provinces that just overspend get money from provinces like Alberta, even when Alberta is going through a terrible recession. So that system is broken, but Europe has kind of the worst of every possible model. So yeah, I mean, I can see whether the UK wants to leave. I think they just need to get it over with.
Spencer, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yeah, good talking to you.
My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. If you have questions for any of our guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.